Hi, everyone. Welcome to Off the Record, the sports podcast of breaking news, hard opinion, and a little bit of gibber. I'm Andrew Webster from The Australian, and I'm joined by my partner in crime, Phil Rothfield from the Daily Telegraph. Hi, Buzz.
Webby, so great to have you here. I want to tell our listeners from the start, this is one of the most courageous, but your presence is one of the most courageous performances. I'd probably go back to the 2014 Grand Final, Sam Burgess and the broken eye socket, that you have climbed out of a hospital bed with 1 million stitches in your back from delicate surgery. Mate, and you've ruled yourself unfit for NRL 360 because you probably think the scar will seep through your shirt. And, mate, it's huge you're here. Mate, it is huge.
Don't take the piss out of me, Buzz.
Mate, it's huge.
Well,
you know explain the surgery.
Okay, so I'm going through a bit of a melanoma scare at the moment. They come out of nowhere the last sort of month. So I've had to get 25 stitches in my back and about 10 under my arm.
Painful?
Took a couple of lymph nodes. Well, I was on painkillers for a couple of days after I come out, and my mum came down to look after me.
Yeah, right.
A bit of a mummy's boy, and I said, this is fantastic. I feel great.
Yeah.
And then the anaesthetic wore off, and it's been pretty painful. But it's
good.
funny,
It went well, mate. They got it all.
Yeah. It all looks positive. I just need some final results. But
Beautiful.
It's a very good reminder to everyone to check your skin. We'll briefly tell you one story. So I got the operation done it was day surgery at the Mater Hospital in North Sydney. 5:30 in the morning. I turn up, waiting there with everyone else that's in day surgery that day, and there's this old bloke with a Manly hat on, and he's just sitting there from across the waiting room, eyeballing the hell out of me.
Really?
And I know what, and I just in there, I said, "How you going there, mate?" And he just sort of snarled.
Did he?
And then he just proceeded to look eyeball me for the rest of the day. The rest of the time I was in the hospital.
Have you seen anything in particular that might have upset Manly fans in recent times? You were heavy on DCE, weren't you? Maybe he's a DCE fan.
No, I was.
Were you in his
I was
corner?
heavy on Mestrov.
Mestrov, yeah.
And,
well, maybe he's Messi's man.
Oh,
mate,
what, like yourself?
Mate, if I had $1 for every person who'd given me a death stare, mate, I wouldn't be sitting here with you trying to make a quid.
No, I know. I just thought it was very funny. 5:30 in the morning at the hospital was,
Yeah, but that's probably a safe environment where there's medical help if anything got out of hand. When you're walking past the hill at Belmore and there's some rather heavy-looking dudes who make it very clear to you they don't appreciate some of your journalism. Yeah. Anyway.
You know what? I reckon he was 77. I reckon I would have had him covered. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk Origin. It's a funny one for us because we drop, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and obviously Origin's on Wednesday. But we're going to talk about it. We've got a little bit of breaking news on where Origin might be headed, and we're going to put on our goggles, not our beer goggles, but our goggles, and do a deep dive into the Lachlan Galvin situation at Canterbury.
The Gus Gould exchange with Chammy.
That's good TV. And then off the back of that, we're going to, in our war story segment, we're going to talk about the all the times we've been absolutely lied to as journalists.
Yes.
And it's quite a lot. Look, quickly, just a reminder to our listeners, there's a promotion with Code Sports, which you can get an annual subscription to Australia's best sports app and website. You just have to go to codesports.com.au/OTR, and that's how you get your special discount. Now, Buzz, who are your champs and chumps for this week? Give us your champion.
Well, I'll give you a champ. It's a guy called Terrell May, who I thought was desperately unlucky not to make the New South Wales State of Origin side. And last Friday, I rang him, spoke to him the first time, and what a good fella. Really, really decent young man. And I can tell you, I still don't know why the Roosters sacked him, but I'll tell you what it could not possibly have been about was his character.
Right.
A really, really nice, different, but very respectful, the way he spoke about Laurie Daly. Didn't expect to get a phone call from Laurie to explain his omission because he was not an incumbent. But he's going to get on the front foot. He asked me for Laurie's number. I gave it to him. And after the game, once Laurie, gets a bit of breathing space, he's going to ring him and say, Laurie, where can I improve? What more would you like to see it? And I just really, really liked him. And the best part about him, Webby, is that he's different. You saw him turn up to the Matty John show with a handbag. Is that what they're called, handbags?
They're cross-body bags.
Or cross-body bags.
They're man purses.
Yeah.
Or because I was wearing
Do you wear one?
I had one when I was when I travelled.
A lot of people travel with them. Passport.
A girl in a bar in New Orleans said she has nice merce.
Merce?
The man purse.
Oh, right. Really?
I've seen you with one.
Yeah, I've got one, but it's not a. But I love what he says, that he will not change his personality. He is not going to be fake. He is who he is. But he did suffer a lot of reputational damage with the Roosters punting him, sort of with no explanation. But anyway, here's my thumbs up. Who's yours?
Mine's Ange Postecoglou. Now, he promised Tottenham Hotspur fans that he would win them a trophy in the second season, and he has, with that big win over Man United in the Europa Cup final. That's a 17-year wait for that trophy. Look, it's not, as I said last week, it's not the most prestigious piece of silverware in football, but it does get them into the
Champions.
The Champions League. I'm not entirely sure whether it's going to save him from being sacked.
They got beat 4-1, Webby.
In the last game of the season.
Yes.
The thing for me with Ange, and look, I'm not saying whether he should be sacked or not. I'd love Ange. I hope he stays on. But the fact that their chairman or their club will not come out and back him, and the fact that he's almost goading them in that press conference after that 4-1 loss to Brighton the other day just suggests that that he might be in trouble. But still, it's a great moment. The win in the Europa League final was up there with one of those great Australian football moments.
Yeah, and your coaching performances, it's Jack Gibson, Wayne Bennett, Rick Charlesworth, Harry Hopman, Barassi, and mate, I would bang him straight into the Australian Sporting Hall of Fame for winning a trophy like that.
Really?
Well, the first Aussie in Europe to do it.
Yeah, and there's what he did with Celtic.
Yes.
Very good. Who's your chump?
My chump is the Parramatta Eels.
Why?
I feel sorry for them. I feel desperately
turning the knife by calling them the chump.
Well, they've missed out on another high-profile player, Lachlan Galvin. And that Parramatta needed to make, with Dylan Brown going, a statement signing. Isaac Moses, who manages him, his star client is Mitchell Moses, who desperately wanted him there too. And it was a huge opportunity to Galvin to go and learn his trade under Mitchell Moses, but he chose not to. Outside of Zach Lomax, I can't remember the last great player Parramatta signed. Geez, you'd have to go back, Webby. But look.
Who? I'm just trying to think.
Well, they got Campbell Gillard and Waka Blake from Penrith.
But they were discarded. Penrith pushed them out the door, so it was hardly a...
But it's not just players. When they decided last year that Brad Arthur's time was up, they chased Wayne Bennett, offered him everything, you could possibly offer a man. They offered Craig Bellamy $10 million. I think it was over 5 years. And they're just knock back, and again, knock back with Galvin. And to me, I actually like Jason Riles there, and I think Riles is the right man. But I do have concerns about Mark Buckets O'Neill as the general manager of football when he's competing against guys like Phil Gould, when he's competing against guys like Frank Panisi, and, the stronger outfits who are, soon to have more joy landing these sort of players. Like how did Cronulla land Adam Fanua Blake? They obviously...
Parramatta just don't seem... I saw it when they tried to get Bennett. They were so late to the party with Bennett in trying to get him. Like the deal with...
But they went before South.
I know, but they still... But they came really late when they needed it.
But what does Blake Solly do that...
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. They just don't seem to be savvy enough about how to sign,
and it's a concern
to land a big fish.
Lachlan Galvin.
What do you think?
Galvin.
Do you think though? I reckon Wayne de South was on long before Parramatta got involved.
But they were involved. They were in the fight and they lost it. Webby.
No, I know.
They lost it.
No, well, I think they were late. I think they were late. I think that's the problem.
Well, a bit of both. Who's your thumbs down?
But finally on that point though, but then just don't seem to be, and this is what we're going to get into later with Gus, you just got to be ruthless. They just don't seem to have that ruthless edge.
Well, they even tried. As late as Saturday, they offered him an extra $100K a year, which is $500,000 over 5 years. They missed out.
Poor old Para.
But look, the only thing Para got going for them, they've finally got their junior league right, and 3 of their 4 junior rep sides played in grand finals this year.
That's right.
That's the only thing they've got going for
We need Para to go good. My chump, and now listen, this is not directed at James Magnussen at all. It's not. But those enhanced games were launched last week in Las Vegas. And can I just join the chorus of people that think it's an absolute fucking disgrace? Like, honestly.
Well, why isn't it aimed at James Magnussen?
Well, I don't look. If Maggie wants to go and get it, it's more about the fact that they're on. That's it. He's a retired swimmer. He can do whatever he wants. It's his own
but I'll
choice.
challenge on that. I think, he's setting young people a really bad example, and all of the people are. And if he wants to compete in it, he wants to make a quick $1 million.
Is this your chump or my chump?
No, it's not. But you seem to have taken him out of the equation for some reason.
I'm talking about the concept. I get on good with Maggie.
Yeah, but that's got nothing. I'm sorry, Webby.
Hang on, but I know.
I know it's your segment. Keep going.
Yeah, so the guy that runs it, Australian guy called Aaron D'Souza, who I spoke to last year. What a gibber. Apart from all the moral and ethical concerns about the enhanced games and then juicing under medical supervision to make sure, we can push athletes to their absolute limits, that doesn't work. Lance Armstrong was under medical supervision. Behind every great drug cheat is an even worse doctor. So I don't really sort of buy the idea that they're going to, it's all medically supervised, it's all going to be great. Particularly when you put $1 million for a world record, $250 American for a gold medal at these games next year. So while ever you have money like that, there's going to be the incentive to cheat even further above what is recommended because you want to win the bloody thing. So I just don't really agree with it at all.
No, but I can't let James Magnussen escape. And look, none of these people are actually cheating. Like drug people who take performance-enhancing drugs in sport are normally cheating, but none of these guys are. They're playing by these rules. I just think it's a really, really terrible look. And if these guys will smash records, and it's almost an encouragement for kids, if you want to swim as fast as us or be as great as we are.
That's why I think it's disgusting.
And I'm not going
to whack Maggie. If he wants to do it, he can do it. I'm not going to whack. If he needs the money, he needs the money.
Yeah, well, you're whacking the concept that he's part of, and he's helped put on the map, and he's attracted so much publicity in this country in recent times. It's a really bad advertisement, Webby.
Sure. You right?
Yeah. We don't have to agree on everything. It'd be the world's most boring podcast if we did.
When have we actually agreed on anything?
Well, yeah. Look, everyone tells me, Matt Johns tells me Magnussen is a terrific fella. I haven't met him, Webby.
Well,
I've heard him on SEN radio, and he's very, very good. I just hope it doesn't affect his career there. I spoke to Craig Hutchison about it last week, and he gave me a very delicate no comment. Yeah.
That's some of the best breaking news I've ever heard.
Well, is it?
That's a
Well, you don't like my content.
It's an exclusive no comment.
Sorry for expanding on your gibber.
Anyway, Maggie, don't come after me. If you're going to come after anyone, go after Buzz. Have you seen the sides of him since he's been on it?
Don't,
he
please.
He should be playing
I know for a
Blues.
fact we have a young demographic listening to this podcast, and I do not want to tell anyone how good or big he's looking.
That's right. The kids are all here. They're tuning in to listen to Poppy Buzz.
Trust me, I get out and about a little bit in this city, and I get a lot of feedback from young people on the gibber that we produce for an hour every week. They love it.
You're down with the kids, Buzz.
I can't believe.
Down with the kids.
Yeah.
Righto. Can I go back to hosting?
Yes.
If you're so fucking good at it, why don't you do it? Hey, don't. Oh, that hurt. The stitches.
Oh.
Okay. Heard it here first. You've got one, haven't you? What do you got?
state
What
of
have you, hey, what have you beaten up to within an inch
I
of
haven't
its life
beaten
as you
this
always
up,
do?
and I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but I am told there is very, very serious consideration from the Australian Rugby League Commission and Andrew Abdo to give serious consideration to taking State of Origin to New Zealand to play to a mass audience over there in a rugby union country, albeit the Warriors are making enormous inroads there. We take one game every 3 years to Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide. Well, why not go across? Look, the time frame's a bit different. There was talk about even playing at 8 o'clock at night in New Zealand, bring it into Australia here at 6 o'clock on a Sunday. That's the only that's the only stopper on it is the time difference, because you can't have it prime time here at 8:30 and 10:30 in New Zealand. It just wouldn't work. But those tickets over there would sell out in 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
People tell me rugby league has taken off to such an extent over there, it is becoming a real concern to rugby union and that All Black brand.
Here we go. Buzz putting the boot into union.
I'm not putting the boot into
Yes,
union at all. What, you don't think what I'm saying is right?
Well, I don't care whether we kill off. Whether
I spoke to Cameron George last night on television.
Whether rugby league kills off rugby union. I want to see the All Blacks.
I want to see a second New Zealand side.
I agree, but you don't want to see you want the All Blacks to wither on the vine, do you?
Well, the Wallabies
one of the
are
great
no
sporting
good.
Teams.
No, I don't want to see it, but I'm just saying there was an opportunity there for rugby league to become the number one sport in New Zealand.
Okay.
From an impossible position. Do you disagree?
Can I go with one better? Can I go one better? I reckon they should investigate Wembley.
Why?
In the UK. Can you imagine an Origin in front of 90,000 people at Wembley?
But people in London don't know what rugby league is.
What a load of bullshit.
You know people in London don't. It's a North of England game.
They travel, Buzz. It's a tiny little country.
Yeah.
They've had massive crowds in London at Wembley for rugby
Mate,
league
if you
matches.
had, we've got these poor working... Go
Shut
on.
up. So this. Listen to me. So Simon Moran, who is the owner of Warrington, who's been in talks with the NRL about them buying the Super League.
Yeah.
What are you laughing?
You're making me laugh. Come on.
Look,
he
he could make it happen. If he can get Oasis back together, he can get an Origin at Wembley. Don't you think that would be incredible?
What worries me, Webby, is
They'd sell it easily. And
I think Origin is a Southern Hemisphere game, and we're asking working class fans to save their coin and go to Las Vegas and watch their footy. Now we're asking them to go to Wembley. Do you know what a return ticket is and accommodate? I don't know, Webby.
The UK reporters that I speak to over there reckon it would be go gangbusters.
In England?
At Wembley.
No, but I'm saying, would it help the English game?
100%. 100%. Here's the other one.
I'm just trying to think what time you'd have to play it there to get it live audience.
9 a.m.
Yeah, do you?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things you got to work out.
I'll tell you one thing. While we're at it, so you know Origin 3 here. Here's a little whack of rugby union. This will be up your alley. What idiot, either at Rugby Australia or involved with the Lions or World Rugby, thought it would be in the best interests of the game to have the tour match between the Lions and the Brumbies on the same night as Origin 3 here?
You serious?
July 9.
Yeah, okay.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And some of those touring journos have already intimated that they'd rather be at the Origin than the tour match.
Yeah, okay.
Thoughts?
Yeah, no, well, it's just crazy. And that they didn't look at the NRL schedule before they did that is just outrageous. It really is. I do want to clear something up. I don't hate rugby union at all. I hate the way the game's been managed in Australia and its decline over a long, long period of time, probably since John O'Neill left. I grew up a massive fan of Campese, the Yella brothers, Poitevin, but, mate, the game isn't the same in my view, and the money they wasted on Joseph Swalihi, that they let Mark Nawangantawisi go, and I'm getting better with that pronunciation.
What was that again?
Mark Nawangantawisi.
Nawangantawisi. Now you've
You
stuffed
can't
me
spell
up.
it.
Now you've stuffed me up.
Well, I don't have it in for rugby. I know But I'd just like to. I'd love to see us beat the Lions, but we won't. I'd love to see us win the World Cup, but we won't. The game's been run down by piss poor administration.
I'm with you on that one. Sing it to me, sister. What? Let's do our origin predictions while we can.
So I can't talk about New Zealand anymore. Do you think it's a good idea, New Zealand?
I like it.
Yeah.
No, I'm down.
Yeah.
I am down with the kids. I'm down with New Zealand. Down with Wembley.
New Zealand is a battleground, Webby. It is.
It's a battlefield.
Yeah.
Like love.
It's like AFL and rugby league on the Gold Coast, with the Suns doing very well. We can't lose these areas to other sports.
I hear.
And I think there's a massive opportunity for future growth in rugby league with Perth, with PNG, to get more New Zealand kids playing rugby league.
I'm here. I hear. I'm picking up what you were putting down. Origin predictions.
New South Wales by 8. Nathan Cleary, man of the match. Brian Toto, first try. Cleary will, and it shits me because I talk about him on the same level as Andrew Johns, and I talk about him on the same level as Jonathan Thurston because he won 4 premierships. Everyone says to me, oh, he hasn't owned Origin. Well, you know what, Joey didn't always own Origin either. He played hooker when Brett Kamala, And Cleary's already got a 50% record in Origin.
That's what people forget. He's won series as an Origin halfback.
I think if Cleary can own this series, more people will put him on the same pedestal that I've got him on, and I expect him to have a blinder.
I'm tipping an upset.
Oh, yeah.
I just think Queensland, I don't know, I've seen the movie so many times before where New South Wales are stronger on paper. It's because it's up there. It's a few new combinations for New South Wales. As I said, I think Munster will have the game of his life. I think he'd be primed for it. I don't think it'd be by much. I think Queensland by 2. But if New South Wales win up there, I think they'll win. They'll sweep the series.
Yeah, look.
I know that's hardly breaking news, but I just think if they can win up there, then they will show their dominance.
A few question marks about, and everyone talks about Tino being back, and but they got 3 players out of the Titans who look like winning the wooden spoon: Mo Fodawaker, Tino, and Bo Firma.
Buzz, but this is when Queensland are at their most dangerous.
Yeah, but how's DCE going, mate?
Doesn't matter, Buzz.
How's Ponga going?
I've seen these blokes go into these Origin.
So I'm not allowed
teams.
an opinion that these blokes in club football have been playing like busted
you just
asses.
asked me how they're going, and I just tried to respond.
Right.
And then you've gone, sorry for having an opinion.
You know I'm run down, don't you?
Oh, you know what? You're going to be run down.
I am fatigued.
You're going to be run down when I headbutt you in a minute.
Oh, will you?
Yeah.
Right. And I'll hit you in the stitches. I'll slap you on the back that hard. You won't know you're into the middle of next week.
Doing my head in this week. This must be great for the listeners out
there.
Yeah. Me and Buzz bickering like, I saw someone call us on our Instagram account. 2 angry old men.
Really?
How am I suddenly classified in your age bracket?
Yeah, good on you.
All right, let's get to the news of the week.
Wow.
Lachlan Galvin.
Yeah, what a story, eh? What a backflip by the great Gus Gould.
Let's just get to just a little aside. Gus v. Chammas, 100% footy. How are we judging this one? I've got Chammas on points.
Yeah. Chammas won because he rattled him.
He did rattle.
The great man was rattled. And I've rarely seen him rattled. When he used that remark, he said to him, "Mind your words, son." That was a rattled man.
Bob Fulton used to call me son.
Yeah.
He used to do my head in.
Yeah, well, I texted Chammy after it and said he should be proud of himself. He stood up like a good, strong journalist and who was being bullied. There was an attempt there to bully him and get him, but he stood up and he was just outstanding. And, Gus was talking his usual crap about not knowing this, not knowing that, trying to cover himself, and I don't think he did a very good job at it.
So my mailers have got even hotter when the cameras went off.
Really?
Yeah. Look, I haven't spoken to Gus for 3 years. We used to have a very good relationship. Some of the stuff he said there to Chammas about, are you questioning my integrity, is very similar to what Gus said to me in our sort of last conversation when I had asked him for it's only a small story, whether the Bulldogs were getting Josh Reynolds back. And he said, no, that's not right. I don't know where that's come from. I said, good as gold. I went and covered the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, and I remember seeing a story from James Hooper pop up on the Fox Sports website saying, linking Reynolds to
Canterbury.
to come back to Canterbury. And when I remember I was sitting there at the time with my sports editor, and I said, mate, if that happens, I said, why would I ever deal with Gus again? Sure as shit, it happened. And I remember texting Gus, and I said, why would I ever check anything with you again if you're just going to lie? And he said, are you questioning my integrity? So he used the same line with Champs last night. I just, Gus, I'm going to praise him in a minute, but I just want to say this about him. The way that he backs away from major decisions at the clubs that he is at, and when it all comes out, I think is really weak. For a big hard man of rugby league, he did it with Griffin. When Griffin was sacked, he said it wasn't my decision. He did the same thing with Barrett. Now he's trying to do the same thing with Lachlan Galvin. Gus, own it. Just own it. The line that he had nothing to do with it has got to be the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. You're the $1 million general manager of football, and what you've got nothing to do with the signing of the hottest prospect in the game after you've just been wrapping him for the last 12 months. Leave me alone.
What about the line that really bewildered me was when he said, why do I have to sit here and be questioned like this? Other club officials don't. Well, other clubs aren't paid nearly $1 million, other general managers of football, to sit and inform on a footy panel like he is.
Buy the ticket, take the ride, Gussie. You want to take 2 clips. You got to wear the questions.
Yeah, but when he says so clearly that Lachlan Galvin's not on our radar, even the goal. If you're not on the radar, even if the goalposts move, you're not on the radar. You don't. This crap that show best kid he's ever seen. How disrespectful to Fittler, Daly, these guys.
But I don't mind.
He said Bryce Cartwright will be the best forward the game's ever seen. He said that. He said in recruitment meetings at Penrith. Then he sent him to the Titans.
Yeah.
He said Matt Moyle in 2016 was the future of Penrith. Will be a lifetime player here. Next year he sold him to Cronulla. Same at Penrith. I said in the show last night, he signed Griffin, he extended Griffin, he sacked Griffin, changed his mind. Oh, I didn't do it, the board did,
Oh, no, I know. Oh, that was one of the great ones that I had with Gus. I remember sitting down with him in Piermont the first day of the season of that year, and I said to him, listen, after the World Cup, a lot of your players have been saying that they're off Anthony Griffin. He said, that's not right. He said it was a News Corp conspiracy. This is when I was working at the Sydney Morning Herald, and he said, that's not right. They're trying to get to me. And I went, Gus, I've heard it from players, mate. I've heard it from their managers. I've heard it from other people. I've heard it from other teammates that played with at the World Cup. Not right at all. And then it all switched. It all turned, and then he sacked him after extending him. I reckon Gus was embarrassed that he re-signed Anthony and then had to get rid of him. The thing I find with the Buzz is that's okay. If he wants to be disingenuous, if he wants to lie, if he wants to twist the truth, whatever, that's sweet. Because at the end of the day, he got his man. He got Lachlan Galvin. He got him. But don't sit there and get the shits when people turn around
when you question integrity
and go, mate, you know what? I don't know if that all sort of lines up with what you said just a few weeks ago.
I think he's been seriously damaged credibility-wise, and at Channel 9, his role there over this story in particular. I think the punters are awake to it, and it's okay to say punters, but, they're the lifeblood of any TV network. They're the ones who provide the ratings. I honestly think he's been badly damaged, what's happened here, and people won't copy his bullshit anymore.
That's right. But I think that's an issue for Nine as much as anyone. And I also, as I wrote in The Australian yesterday, it's an issue for the NRL because they are too soft to say that you can't be courting players through the media. The NRL clubs wanted this rule brought in to make sure Gus couldn't do it, and it's been sitting there as a draft on Andrew Abdo's desk for 2 years. The NRL go, we're in consultation with the RLPA. It's been 2 fucking years. Seriously. This is
Can you watch
looks,
your language?
This is where the game looks so amateurish. It really does.
I'll just explain to a young audience.
Oh, for God's sake. But I will say this, though. I'm going to give him a rap. Like, you can't deny what he's done there at Canterbury.
Well, hey, I don't know how it's going to work. Look, they had a football side, Webby, that had won 9 of 11, were leading the competition. And as I wrote on Monday, this had the potential to cause enormous unrest in the playing ranks. You know, they've got Jacob Preston, nearly the form second row in the comp, would have been in Origin, but for suspension on 350,000. They got Max King on 400,000, Origin front rower. Then you bring in Galvin on 750. You bring in Leo Thompson on 900. Sexton's out. Reid Marnie's out. The fullback, Connor Tracy's he out. Time will tell what sort of signing this is. Where does he play? Is he going to play halfback? Is he going to play 5'8"? Is Burton going to have to move to lock? Does Burton want to move? Yeah, mate, there's so...
I know, I get it, but you know what? I'm not. Who am I to question whether it's the right move? I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that at all.
We're here though to talk about the potential of issues that might arise from this signing.
I can understand that, but I'm not going to be critical of him because every rein that he's pulled so far since he's been at Canterbury has been the right one.
No, look, and
they were wooden spooners. Yeah. They were wooden spooners 3 years ago.
Yeah,
and now they're leading the comp, and if they mightn't win it this year, with Galvin there,
mate, they could win the comp this year. They could, or they could go backwards. I don't know how it's going to affect.
That's right, as you said, time will tell. But amid, while we're all sitting here whacking Gus over the way that he's gone about business, which is fair enough, and I've just whacked him as hard as anybody. I can't help but think he's an evil genius because he's going to get what he wants.
Yeah,
and it could be the final piece in a big master plan.
I want to raise another thing, and I'll do it briefly because I've said this on Triple M. Jerome Luai was so far off Galvin it wasn't funny, correct?
Yeah.
Guess who 3 of his great mates are? Jerome Luai, really, really thick with Stephen Crichton, Billy Kekau, and Matt Burton. Now, those 4 are still very, very tight, and this mightn't be the smoothest transaction ever, Webby.
No, fair enough.
He has to win the respect of that rugby league club.
And this is the funny thing.
Players.
Oh, let me say this then. So the reason why Galvin wanted out is one, because he didn't like Benji and his family didn't like Benji. And it seems like he didn't like Jerome Luai or Coruscant. Now, he must have an ego on him because if he's a 19-year-old kid, I know he's a great talent, but if you think that you know the game better than 3 premiership winners and 2 very recent premiership winners, I tell you what, you want to be bloody good and you want to live up to the potential. The other thing that I want to say on this issue is I wrote yesterday that Gus should get out at the end of this season, leave the Bulldogs. Because this is what happened at Penrith. He assembled a premiership winning team and
couldn't get him over the line.
And couldn't get him over the line because Gus starts interfering or goes cold on coaches, goes cold on players. Get out, Gus. Get out. And if that's the case, I'm going to float this, make him the new general manager of football at the Perth Bears. That's what that franchise needs.
But he wouldn't leave Sydney at this age, would he? Oh, I guess Mal's considering, isn't he? How would he work with Mal?
I don't know.
It's a more important role than the coaching job.
100%.
You'd have to give Gus total, power.
Absolutely.
To appoint his own coach.
But Peter V'landys, if you're out there listening...
Well, it's not a...
Go and throw the bank at Gus.
I agree with you. Penrith didn't start winning till Gus left. And the reason he left is management for the first time stood up to him, overruled him, and brought Ivan Cleary back, who was allegedly tied 3 years earlier. So that's why Penrith started winning. Gus and Brian Fletcher did a good job opening the academy and so forth. And
set him up, got the pathways going.
Yeah. But look, I don't think, I think he's nearly a life hit, Canterbury Webby. That's just my own, and it's not an informed opinion because, as you know, it's been a hell of a long time since we've spoken.
Yeah, mine's 3 years. You call me a cheap journalist.
Yeah, well.
Do I look like I'm cheap to you?
No.
If you saw
what is that brand? What's the band of that shirt?
I don't know. Cheap.
Looks like one of those trendy Oxford Street boutique.
That's not some cheap ass shirt from.
Is it?
My Merce is very expensive.
You always wear black.
It's slimming.
Slimming.
Is it working?
Yeah, it is. You're looking good for a bloke who's undergone delicate back surgery.
Okay.
What's next?
Well, I think we've talked so long there. We're going to have to jump to our war story straight away. What do you reckon?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, let's go.
You
So
start.
our war stories, in the light of that, is how we've been lied to over the years. Yeah. People lying. I don't reckon I'm finding people in the game are lying more than ever. Even trusted contacts are lying more than ever. Are you finding that?
Well, I am because can I start here? And
yeah,
it was recently Tony Mestrov, the Chief Executive Officer of Manly.
He lied to you?
Yes. I rang him, I think it was about round 2, and I said, geez, this male DCE's leaving, what's going on? He said, mate, no, we've put it on the back burner for a few weeks. He's not sure. And, so I just left the story alone. Then one of my rivals 2 weeks later broke that, there'd been a shit fight. And in November last year, it was agreed upon they'd part ways, and he was going to be looking for a new club. So as you do, I rang Mestrov, and as soon as he picked up your phone, he said, mate, I've got to apologise. I said, mate, you do. You lied to me. He said, I did, but I gave Daly Cherry Evans my word and an ironclad guarantee if I'm asked about this story by any journalist, it's in the vault, right? I shall not. So he got out of it whether he had a deal with Cherry. He would have lied to Cherry Evans if he hadn't have. So it was an honourable lie. Would you
an honourable lie?
Yeah, well, it was almost because he did it for his player. And
I get it.
And he did have a handshake arrangement then. It's tough, Webby, isn't it?
Well,
I'll put it this way, I forgave him.
Sure. I would rather be told, look, I can't talk to you about it, or them tell me this is happening, I'll let you know when you can write it, And I thought that a good example of it was Nick Politis with Cronk in the lead up to the 19 grand final. Remember all that grand final, we didn't know, is he going to play or not, what's going on with his shoulder, and Nick purposely said to Robbo, I don't want you to tell me because I don't want to be in a position where I've got to lie to journalists that I have a good relationship with. The worst I got lied to involves you.
How?
2005, the great Graham Hughes, the great Heaps.
How would I possibly involved?
Well, you got the story. I'm not entirely sure what the yarn was about, but it was a story involving Corey, his nephew.
Was he in strife or something?
No. It was about whether he was going to get extended or not at the club.
Right.
And so. And he said, "Look, mate, don't write it. I'll talk to you, at a later date, and we'll go from there." And so that was on the Saturday, and then I woke up on the Sunday morning and pick up the Sunday Telegraph, and here you are, Phil Rothfield exclusive.
How many times have I scooped you over the years?
That's the only one from memory. And I called Heaps on the phone. It was 7 a.m. He was in bed, and I was a bit more aggressive then. I said, Graham, the next time I write about you or your family, you'll be reading it with the other million readers of the Sun Herald newspaper, which it probably had back then. And then he's like, how dare you question my integrity? And then he goes, hang on. I'm just starting to wake up here. I'm really, really angry. Anyway, we've and then about 4 years later, he did exactly the same thing.
I've had a million blues with Heap over the years.
Famous one.
On Controversy Corner.
Controversy Corner.
Yeah.
How are you now?
I don't, he's not part of my life. He's quite irrelevant figure. Yeah, look, I'm going to talk about the Melbourne Storm salary cap scandal. I think the story broke on a Wednesday afternoon, and we've spoken to at Nick's Seafood Restaurant when we'll call back to work. On the Monday that week, I rang John Brady and David Gallup. David Gallup was CEO. John Brady was his communications director. And I said, guys, I'm hearing this drama with Storm salary cap. And they both sort of fobbed me off and saying, oh, look, we're always looking into salary cap issues, at different clubs. And the only thing I'm going to say to them in fairness, they were both working for 50% of News Corp at the time.
That was very tricky.
And
it's tricky for all of us
the other
covering that story.
50% was for the ARL. I was working for News Corp, and Melbourne Storm was owned by News Corp. So they were under massive pressure about how delicate this story was. But anyway, they fobbed me off. And maybe I could have lined my ducks up better. Maybe I didn't have all the information at the time. I had sketchy detail. Not enough for them to be in a position, obviously, to confirm. And then the story broke on Wednesday. I didn't get a heads up from them. Oh, you rang us on Monday. Do you want a bit, we owe it to you to... I never spoke to John Brady ever again and still haven't.
Haven't you?
No.
Poor old Braids.
Yeah, sad, but I think he did the wrong thing by me.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest stories of my time, the Storm salary cap scandal. David Gallop and myself, I spoke to him from the pub that night. I was at the Aurora because we'd had lunch, then we went back to work, then I went and had a couple of... I was furious.
I remember being at the Aurora with you.
And I rang
It was
Gallop.
the longest day in history.
I rang Gallop from there and let him know in no uncertain terms that I would have expected a bit better heads up when I was the first journalist to ring about the story.
Yeah.
Can you call that lying? Can you call that fobbing off? Can you, protecting their jobs? It was so delicate. Like the club was News Corp. Half his bosses were News Corp. I worked for News Corp. This was a major, major scandal. But anyway, I lost the story.
We're the press. We demand to have the right to know.
Webby, everyone tells lies in rugby league. You know they do.
I know they do. Look,
everyone,
Of course, but I only highlight
that's unfair. 75% of people tell lies.
Rugby league's a very ruthless game.
It is.
It's a very ruthless working class game where you do whatever you can to... You're right, you're looking at your phone.
I'm just checking a text message.
Yeah, well, I'm on air.
Just to remind you, I'm a 24/7 journalist, right? And I have other things in life outside of this podcast. And if someone rings me with a Melbourne Storm salary cap story like I've just spoken about...
Is that what it was?
If someone does, I'll be pausing this podcast and filing on it. That's what modern media is. It's an internet, it's social media, it's breaking news.
Give our hundreds of thousands of listeners out there the respect they deserve and give them your undivided attention.
I am.
No, you weren't. You're looking at your
phone. I was checking to make sure it wasn't a breaking news story.
For you, to be honest. Let's do our fearless forecast so I can...
Yeah, I had enough of you 5 minutes into the podcast when you were carrying on about your back.
Surgery I had last week? That was less painful than you are on this podcast. What's your fearless forecast? What do you got?
I've got a rumour that Mal Meninga isn't over the line for the Perth Bears.
Oh.
Reason being, Mal's been offered the job. Mal's got a contract he's looking at now, but Mal has a young family and a wife who live in Canberra where his wife's family are. And he still is weighing up the options. Is it worth going over there on the big bucks and taking on a big job, dragging his family out of the national capital to a city they've never been in. And also it would painfully mean that he would have to give away the Kangaroos tour job.
Right.
Because if he's taking on Perth, his players will come onto the market in November and he'll have to be on the ground here selling the Perth story and his coaching ideas, etc. So he's weighing it up. I was told on Monday that he was very close to knocking it back, but I've since done more homework and it's probably 60-40. He's still going to go ahead with it, but it's not over the line.
Well, who's his assistant? Surely Sam Burgess isn't the assistant.
I'm told probably Matt King.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
That's what I heard too.
And he was also talking Justin Holbrook, but they're both on the Roosters staff and there's no way Roosters will let both of them go.
Okay. Do you want to hear my fearless forecast?
Absolutely.
Hey? So Buzz just gives you sort of rumour and innuendo. I actually give you money. Jeremy Nanai, first try scorer, $23 in the Origin. I've taken candy from a baby.
Really? $23.
Do you know once in a...
I gave you Toto first try, and I gave you Cleary man of the match.
Do you know many years ago I had Boyd Cordner first try scorer for New South Wales in a game at Sydney Olympic Park, and he scored, and I'd had 100 on it, so good collect. And I got up and I cheered, and all the Queensland supporters like, "Come on, be unbiased," you know. I said it's not state versus state. It's me versus Neds.
Yeah, right.
Righto, that's all we've got for this week. It was a big show. Listen, you can follow, subscribe, and engage with us on socials. Find us at Off the Record Podcast on Insta, and please subscribe to us on YouTube at Off the Record Podcast. Thanks, Buzzy.
See you, buddy. Bye.
See you guys.